It seems like a lot of people think that debt is bad. Is that true? Can obtaining debt really be a good thing for your retirement? My name is Chatto, and I've been a landlord for over 25 years, and I'm not an accountant, I'm not a CPA, an attorney, or a financial advisor. But despite all that, I still have my opinion on debt, and I wanted to share that with you today. So let's have a quick chat with Chatto about assets, liabilities, and the rich dad mindset around debt. So today I'm going to go over the top 5 reasons that I like debt. So number one, first reason I'm going to go over is cash on cash return. So I'm going to explain it in this way. I kind of just look back and I look at the first property that I purchased, which I purchased with an FHA loan because it was a multifamily and I was living in one unit and renting out the other units. So that being said, I was able to purchase this property for $170,000. So a 3%, 3% was about $5,000, right? And it's closing costs and blah blah blah. But essentially, it was about $5,000 down to purchase this home for $170,000. Cool. So I'm buying this home, $170,000, and I am putting down 3%. So I'm putting $5,000 down. Every year, right, that house does what? It appreciates. Yeah, I get there's times that it goes up and it goes down and there's some fluctuations, but overall, it's going to go up in value. How much is it going to go up in value? I don't know. I mean, a lot of times you're going to say it's going to go up what? 3% a year? And I put down how much? 3%. So if I put $5,000 down on the property and it was 170 grand, and in the first year it went up 3%, it went up in value $5,000. So on that $5,000, I made 100% return on what my what I put into it, right? So if I sold that property a year later, I get there's like closing costs and realtor commissions, but what I'm getting at is the value of that property went up $5,000, and my cost in order to get that increase in equity was $5,000. If I would have purchased that property free and clear, that would have cost me $170,000. And now I'm only making 3% on my money, so to speak. And I know that that's not exactly what a cash on cash return is, right? So I get that. But what I'm trying to show you is that the equity that you're getting is going to grow the same whether or not that property is purchased with or without the leverage of debt. And if I have less money out of pocket, I can buy more properties. And if I can buy more properties, they're all going up in value and I'm gaining equity in all of them as opposed to just one of them. And the percentage that I'm gaining in equity is a lot bigger. Cash on cash return is the other thing, right? So if I have $5,000 out of my pocket to purchase this property and and again, I was living there, so it's a little different. But let's say I purchase a property and I have $5,000 out of pocket to purchase it, right? Because I get a low down payment, right? And that property becomes rented, right? So I got $5,000 out of pocket, and let's say I'm making $200 a month. So $200 a month in cash flow times 12 months is $2,400. $2,400, right? Is now that's my income on $5,000. So wow, oh my gosh, did I make almost 50% return on investment? That's a cash on cash return, right? So I'm making 50% almost return on my investment. I made $2,400 on a $5,000 investment every single year. I'm bringing 50% of what I put down back because I use leverage. If I would have purchased that property for 170, right, my cash flow might have been, I don't know, $2,000 a month, right? I'm just kind of thinking out loud. I didn't even do the math beforehand. Maybe I should have. But 2,000 times 24, I'd be bringing in 48,000 a year. Divided by 170,000 is 28%. So if I purchase the property cash, I'm making 28% on my money in this fictitious case. Whereas if I got a mortgage, I'm making 50% on my money, and that's cash on cash return. So when I use a mortgage, I am increasing my cash on cash return, and I guess the other thing would really be called appreciation on cash return. But that's the first big thing. By using that debt and using that leverage, I'm able to increase the amount of returns I get with the money I put out. And in a lot of cases, if you're able to buy the properties with zero money down, which is possible, you buy the property with zero money down. I've purchased a lot of properties that way. Your return is actually infinite on your cash on cash and appreciation. But that's a whole nother story. So that's the first thing. The second big thing is debt destruction via inflation. So what do I mean by debt destruction via inflation? And I was thinking about it. So I go to Perplexity, my little AI that I pay for, and I just, out of curiosity, I see what it says. I don't take this as gospel, but I'm like, 2015 versus 2025, what's my dollar worth? Like, what's the difference in what my dollar is worth? And what Perplexity told me was basically that in today's market, in 2020, well, it's 2026 now, but in 2025, I would need $1.35 to buy the same thing that $1 purchased in 2015. So just over 10 years. So if I took out a loan 10 years ago, I borrowed money that at that time was worth $1, right? And I took the money that was worth $1 in 2015 dollars, and I purchased an asset in 2015, right? So if I did that, that property is going up in value, right? So I'm getting the appreciation, I'm getting the increase in equity, and I was able to buy that asset with dollars of what they were worth in that time period, but I'm paying back those dollars now 10 years later with dollars that are worth what, like 35% less, right? So I'm getting a reduction in when I'm paying it back. I'm paying it back with dollars, not necessarily dollars that are worth less, but dollars that are worth less, right? So as I'm paying it back, the dollars that I'm paying it back are worth less than the dollars at the time that I borrowed it. So that's the second cool thing about debt, about using debt. Now, the third big thing is I don't have to pay the debt back. I mean, I do have to pay the debt back, but really, who's paying it back? It's my tenants, right? And that's where I'm kind of getting into like some of the rich dad stuff, like an asset versus a liability. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket every month, and a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket every month, right? So if you have a rental property and it's, in this fictitious case, cash flowing $200 a month, at that time, if it's cash flowing $200 a month, that property is putting $200 a month into your pocket, right? And if I bought that property with debt, right, now, right, I'm not the one paying back the debt, because that $200 a month cash flow is after debt service. That's after I pay off all my debt, all my mortgage payments. So I'm not the one who's paying it back, right? But, and actually that's one of my other points. So I'm not going to say that quite yet. But I'm not the one that's paying it back, and I'm cash flowing. Now, it's different if I go out and buy a car, right, for whatever amount, $50,000 these days to get a halfway decent car, right? At least new. So if I go out and buy a car and I'm paying that back, well, I'm paying that out of pocket. That's costing me every month. It's costing me gas. It's costing me insurance. It's costing me the payment. Even if I bought it free and clear, it's costing me the payment. It's not an asset, right? It has a value, but it's going down in value, and it's taking money out of my pocket every single month, which is kind of like one of the interesting things that Rich Dad talks about, like your primary residence where you live. You know, while you may be building up equity, it's taking money out of your pocket every month, right? Because you're not, unless you're living in a multifamily and you have tenants paying the rest of it, that house is not an asset, it's a liability. And again, that's another, I guess, maybe conversation for another day. But the cool thing is you do not need to pay the debt back because you purchased a good asset that cash flows. So that is number 3. So number 4, when you borrow money, it's not income, right? It's not taxable. So if it's not income, it's not taxable. Again, not a financial advisor, but borrowed money is not taxable. So think about it. For that property for 170 grand, if I wanted to go out and earn $170,000 to buy that property, well, I'm probably going to have to pay taxes on it. So I don't know. Not only do I need to earn $170,000 to buy that property, I need to earn 170 plus whatever the taxes I paid on it. So, if you earn it in a year, you're probably in a pretty high tax bracket. Plus, you have all your other expenses. It's going to take you a while to even get the asset, right? But if you buy that property in 100% cash, you're probably buying it with earned income. And if you're buying it with earned income, you're buying it with money that's been taxed, right? So not only are you're not getting the leverage when you buy the property, you're also paying taxes on the money before you use that money to buy the property, right? So that's the other thing. Like, borrowed money is not taxable. And that's like a really good way that a lot of times landlords, and as you're building your portfolio, are able to get their appreciation back out, right? If you buy a property in 2015, right, 10 years pass and the property's gone up X amount, you can go and get a refinance on that property and take out a bunch of money, right? If you might have bought it for 150 and now it's worth 250, right? So you can go out and, instead of having a loan for 150, you go out and get a loan for 225, let's say. And now you get $75,000 in your pocket on that refinance, and that's not taxable money, right? And, right, I would think that as rents have gone up, when you get that refinance, you're going to still be able to cover the debt with number three. You don't have to pay it back. The tenants are still paying the debt, but now you have this chunk of cash that you can go out and use as down payments onto other properties, right? You can use it for other types of investments. You can do stuff with it and make money on it, but you weren't taxed on it because you borrowed the money, right? So that's the cool thing. That's another cool thing about debt. Borrowed money is not taxable. And number 5, the 5th thing I want to talk about is the interest is a write-off. So you have your tenant paying the mortgage for you, right? And big chunk of that is interest anyway in the beginning, right? With the amortization schedule and all that. But your tenant is paying you the rent. You're using that money to pay the mortgage. And as you're paying the mortgage, you're getting a write-off, right? So you're getting income from the tenant, but most of that is going towards interest. So not most, you can say a good chunk of it can go towards interest, and now you can write that off against your income, right? So it helps reduce the tax liability. You're going to pay a lot more in taxes if you own a property free and clear than if you have debt on it. And you know what? I thought of number 6, the bonus, right? You got a bonus here. Number 6, if you have a mortgage on your property, and if you have debt on your property, you are a lot less likely to get sued, right? And it's not going to prevent you from getting sued, but if somebody slips and falls on one of your properties and they go to the attorney, and the attorney is going to do a lookup on public record, and they're going to see 123 Main Street, and they're going to see that 123 Main Street is free and clear. What are they going to say? Let's sue this guy. The house is worth money, right? But if they go in and they look up on public record and see, okay, the house is worth 200 and the guy owes, 190, they're going to say, man, there's only $10,000 in equity in this property, and you probably, if you sold it, you wouldn't even get that. We're not going to get anything from this guy, right? They're going to be happy potentially to go after the insurance, but you're going to be less likely to be a target of lawsuits if your property is encumbered with debt. So take that for what it's worth. But it's also a way to protect yourself in a way, right? It's not a foolproof method, but it's going to potentially give you a little bit less of a chance of having an issue with a lawsuit if you have that debt on the property. Cool. So with all that being said, hopefully this video was of value to you. And you know what? Another thing, as I'm thinking about it, I had a little outline here of things I want to talk about, but this other one just popped into my head. I also want to mention it. With debt, right? There's, like I said in the beginning, seems like a lot of people are scared of debt, right? And there are times that the market does go downhill. And when that happens, sometimes even rents go down, right? So the market could go downhill, the debt, the rents can go down, and the property could be worth less. Not worth less, worth less. Ah, boy, that seems to be a theme in this video. That being said, right? So if you have a property and it's worth 200, right? You buy it for 200, it's rented out, you're making, I don't know, 200-300 bucks a month, and the market goes soft, right? So number one, you don't have to sell it. You don't want to sell it, right? You want to keep this property for 20-30 years, right? Especially if you're buying in your 20s and 30s, you're going to keep this property at least until you retire. So as that time passes, the property will go up in value. I had this happen personally. I bought my personal residence for about 200, and the market 2008 hit, it went down in value, right? But still today, right now the 20 years have passed, right? The property is worth close to double what I paid for it, right? So that will work itself out over time, in my opinion. I can't tell the future, especially if you're in a somewhat decent area. If you're in some like Hicktown in Pennsylvania where everybody's leaving and nobody wants to live there, might be an issue because the house becomes worthless. Maybe it happens, right? But if you're buying good real estate in good areas, you're probably going to be protected, and you may, right? So if you're cash flowing 300 bucks a month and rents soften, you may need to give say to your tenant, like, hey, I know rents have gone down. I can see that. I don't want you to leave. Maybe keep the rent payment above the mortgage payment and keep yourself afloat. But even if you're in the hole, 150 bucks a month on a property for a couple of years until that correction happens, you're still going to be way ahead. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that yes, there are risks to having debt, but overall the risks in my mind aren't that huge, especially if you buy right, if you get yourself some cash flow so that you can handle and not be too far in the negative or even still in the positive if the market does soften, and you can get through it. And in the long term, no matter what, you're going to be in better shape. I mean, I don't know, I'd have to do the math, but you could probably purchase a property and sit on it for a while and not even have tenants in there, lose money on it every month and still come out ahead. Maybe not. I don't know. I guess depends on the appreciation in the area. Anyway, so I've been going on and on over 15 minutes now. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully this video was of value to you. Hopefully this takes away some of the fear of having debt. And really, I encourage you to read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. Like, that really kind of helps you get your mind and your set around good debt versus bad debt, and good assets and liabilities, and what the difference between an asset and a liability is, and what puts money in your pocket and what takes money out. So that all of that is just important stuff to think about as you're growing your rental portfolio. And with that being said, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it because supposedly that helps with the algorithm. Make comments below, and I appreciate your hanging out on another episode of Chat with Chatto.